In the last lecture, you learned that in order to handle errors, we should wrap our code in a try-catch block. If an error occurs, we catch it here and then undo the changes. So far, so good. However, there is more to error handling than what you have seen so far. First, we need to differentiate between expected and unexpected errors. So, expected and unexpected. What do I mean by this? Expected errors are errors that our API endpoints predict and return. For example, here if we try to delete a post with an invalid ID, the server will return a response with the status code 404, which means not found. This is a standard HTTP error that you have probably seen before. As another example, we have the status code 400, which means bad request, and this happens when we try to submit a form with invalid data. So on the server, the validation fails, and the server will respond with a 400 error. As you can see, all these errors are in the 400 range. In the HTTP protocol, we refer to these errors as client errors. So errors that happen because the client did something wrong. In this case, we should display a specific error message to the user. For example, in case of deleting a post, if the server returns a 404 error, we should tell the user, hey, this post is already deleted. Or maybe this post could not be found. So something specific. In case of a 400 error, we should tell the user what fields in the form were invalid. So these are examples of expected errors. Unexpected errors are errors that technically should not happen under normal circumstances. Here are some examples. If the network is down, we won't be able to call the server. So this is an unexpected error because the network should not be down. This is an exceptional situation. Another example, the network might be up, but maybe the server is down. Or perhaps the server is also up and running, but the database is down. Or maybe all these pieces are up and running, but we have a bug in our application code. So these are examples of unexpected errors that should not happen under normal circumstances. We need to handle these kind of errors differently. First, we need to log them. So in the future, we can look at our log and find the errors that shouldn't have happened. Also, we should display a generic and friendly error message to the user. For example, an unexpected error occurred. So now let's modify this code and handle these expected and unexpected errors accordingly. So how can we check if this exception we get here is an expected error? Well, this exception object has two properties, request and response. So request and response. This property is set if we successfully get a response from the server. If the network is down or the server crashes, we won't get a response, so this property will be null. The request property will be set if we can successfully submit a request to the server. Otherwise, it's going to be null. Now, in this case, we have one expected error, that is the error with the status code 404. So to check for this error, we need to write code like this. If exception.response is truthy and its status equals 404, that means we have an expected error. So we can display an error like this post has already been deleted. Now let me delete these two lines here. We don't need them. In this API endpoint, this is the only expected error that we have to deal with. Anything else should be treated as an unexpected error. So let me delete all these comments. We don't really need them. So else, first we need to log the error. For now, I'm just going to log it in the console. In the future, we'll come back and talk about logging in more detail. So logging the error, and here's the exception or the error object. And then we should have a generic error message. I'm going to move this alert right here and change the message to an unexpected error occurred. That's it. Now, either way, whether we have an expected or unexpected error, we should revert the UI to its previous state. Now let's test the application and simulate these two kinds of errors. So first I want to simulate an expected error. Let's add an invalid post ID here. Let's say 999, and we're not going to send post.id. Back in the browser, I'm going to delete this post. We got this message, this post has already been deleted, beautiful. And in the console, we don't have a message about logging this error. This is not something that we should log because it is possible that the user has multiple tabs open. So on one tab, they delete a post, maybe on another tab, that post is still there. So when they delete this post, they get that error. That is not an indication of something being wrong in our application. So we don't need to log it. It's a client error. By the same token, if the user submits a form with invalid data, we don't want to log that error. It's just a client error, so the client should fix that error. Now let's simulate an unexpected error. So I'm going to put this post ID back. However, I'm going to change the URL to something invalid like this. So with this change, we're not going to get a response from the server because this is not a valid URL. Okay, save the changes, back in the browser, delete. We got our generic error, an unexpected error occurred. And here on the console, we're logging this error. Beautiful.